Künstliche Intelligenz ist am Aktienmarkt nach wie vor in aller Munde. Doch welche KI-Aktie hat denn jetzt noch Potenzial? Während diese hochgehypten KI-Aktien bereits schon teilweise wieder fallen oder wie im Fall von Nvidia seit Monaten eigentlich stagnieren, gibt es noch immer unentdeckte Aktien, die vom KI-Trend nicht nur in Form von Hype, sondern dann auch nachhaltig profitieren können und ein reales Geschäftsmodell haben. HIVE Digital Technologies ist einerseits der effizienteste und einer der größten Bitcoin-Miner an den Börsen und hat Rechenzentren in Schweden, Island und Kanada. In Schweden waren wir erst vor ein paar Monaten vor Ort und haben das Rechenzentrum in Boden besucht. Im Hintergrund hier seht ihr gerade ein paar Videoaufnahmen von diesem Besuch eingeblendet. Neben aber dem Bitcoin-Mining, was HIVE Digital Technologies betreibt, könnte die Firma aber auch eine der heißen KI-Aktien werden. Heute habe ich den CEO Aiden Sillig bei uns im Interview zu Gast und wir sprechen über das Bitcoin-Halving, was demnächst ansteht, wie sich HIVE als Miner darauf vorbereitet und vorbereitet hat. Zudem wollten wir auch schauen, wie sich Aiden, Frank Holmes und das Team auf den KI-Trend einstellen und wie das neue Geschäftsmodell in Zukunft vielleicht aussehen könnte. Mein Name ist Jan Wilhöf von axinocapital.de. Wir investieren seit 35 Jahren in Small-Cap-Aktien und in Frank Holmes, der HIVE an die Börse gebracht hat und parallel mehr als 3 Milliarden Dollar in den USA verwaltet. Den kennen wir schon seit vielen Jahren persönlich. Ich muss und möchte euch natürlich im Rahmen dieses Interviews nochmals auf unseren Disclaimer hinweisen. Den blenden wir hier gerade nochmal ein und ansonsten gibt es dazu von mir später nochmal Infos. Auch solltet ihr natürlich wissen, dass Aiden und ich jetzt im Interview Englisch sprechen, aber ich versuche euch das Ganze auf Deutsch mal ein bisschen zusammenzufassen. Das heißt, selbst wenn ihr nicht ganz so gut Englisch spricht, bekommt ihr hier alle Informationen, die ihr braucht. Ich wollte mit Aiden direkt einsteigen und habe ihn deswegen gefragt, was wohl vielen auf den Lippen brennt. Was passiert denn nun, wenn das bevorstehende Bitcoin-Halving passiert? Mitte April soll sich die Ausbeute für die Bitcoin-Miner halbieren. Wie geht HIVE als einer der effizientesten Miner damit um? Brechen dann etwa die Umsätze bei der Firma ein? Wie können wir uns das vorstellen?
Bitcoin mining comes down to a unit economic. What I mean is, on a dollar per kilowatt hour basis, are you generating revenue from a certain machine that you're operating? And the answer, it's actually a matrix because you will have different operating expenses at different data centers, not just across different companies. Even one company, we have 6 data centers globally, and everyone has a slightly different setup. Some we have fixed power pricing. In Sweden, for example, we can hedge, meaning we lock in a fixed power price for the year ahead. And right now we've got very attractive rates around 3 cents US, which is extremely competitive globally. And other markets, you have some power that's fixed and some power that is variable. Now, usually the variable pricing, you can get extremely low power costs. We might see 1 or 2 cents at the lows. We might also see higher prices of, 6 or 7 cents on really cold days, depending on the economics and the geographic. But ultimately, what we manage that, of course, ourselves to make sure we're always mining profitably. And it's very important to understand those different break-even prices at different electrical prices. However, the reason why I say it's a matrix is because you also have different models of machines. So, for example, if your power cost is 3 cents, the break-even Bitcoin price will be very different if you have, say, for example, an S19 XP or an older machine of maybe a Keine 1246. Now, never mind the model numbers. What really matters is something called machine efficiency. It is a unit measured in joules, which is energy, per terahash, which is of course hash rate. And so there's these various mathematical representations that we constantly analyze to ensure the different types of machines that we have running are always generating profit. Now, that's just what allows us to be one of the best miners in the business. We have the best Bitcoin per exahash, meaning we have very high uptime, meaning that when we say we're, at 3.5 exahash or 3.8 exahash every month, whatever that number is, we're utilizing all of our hash rate. what you might notice is some of the bigger crypto miners, they might say we're 8x a hash or we're 10x a hash, but they're not actually mining with all of it. Now, that could be for a lot of different reasons. For example, maybe they just have some operational challenges. Maybe their substation or they had a power outage. Maybe they have a lot of machines that are just not online. Because when you're at the exahash level, that's roughly 10,000 machines. So if you have 10 exahash online, that would mean 100,000 machines you have to manage. Now, I got started in crypto mining back in 2017, and I took a company public at the same time as HIVE. I was inspired by the HIVE story, and Frank Holmes, our chairman, welcomed me to join the HIVE team in 2021, which was an amazing, very exciting opportunity. And HIVE has really grown as a technology leader in these last few years. The point of my comment is that Frank and I, we both been to the bear market, right? And so you have to know what is it like to mine Bitcoin during these bear markets, number one. Number two, back in 2017, back in 2018, when everybody went public, you had a 2 megawatt data center, a 5 megawatt data center. That was considered a big deal. But here's the thing. In a 5 megawatt data center, you can stand at one end of the building and you can see the other end and you can walk up and down. And you can, if you stand far away, all your miners are on one big wall. You can actually just see all of them. You can see all the green lights blinking and you go, oh, that light's red, that light's red. Go fix that one, go fix that one. When you have 1 exahash, 2 exahash, 3 exahash, you can't do that. Our data center in New Brunswick is 4 buildings and each building is 20,000 square feet. You can't see end to end, even in one building, never mind 4 buildings. The whole method of, it's like washing clothes on a, when you scrub it on a rock, like, 100 years ago. There's old techniques, right? So how do you stay on top of managing tens of thousands of miners? Software. We're always upgrading our software stack. My technical team, led by my CEO, they do a phenomenal job where we can read thousands of miners in milliseconds. And that allows us to have very high granularity and insight into the operations. Now, this is so important because whether you have 1 exahash or 10 exahash, if you do not have nice high 99% uptime, that's very bad for two reasons. In a bull market, you're leaving money on the table. That's a lot of Bitcoin you can and should be mining, but you're missing out because your machines are dead and you can't find them and all these sorts of things. The other reason in a bear market, you need every single dollar you can get to mine profitably. Because guess what? You're going to have a lot of fixed costs, and you have to pay those costs, your staff, your data centers, etc., whether or not the machines are running. So you better make sure those machines are running and they're running profitably. And if Bitcoin does drop below a certain level and you have some machines that are not profitable, you better be able to calculate which of those machines are unprofitable and selectively shut down only those machines and make sure the rest are running profitably. And this is how we at HIVE have managed to have positive gross mining margins every quarter for the last year. And why I say that's remarkable is because in November and December of 2022, we had some of the worst mining economics on record. Difficulty actually dropped for the first time after it was going up for so long. And we're still in very bearish mining economics, yet we still managed to have positive gross mining margins. So with all of that narrative, I bring it to one point. It is not about economies of scale. Is about economies of efficiency. And at HIVE, we strive to be the most efficient Bitcoin miner. Pound for pound, we want to be the best. And that means delivering value for shareholders, making money as a public company.
Also, Aiden beschreibt, dass Bitcoin-Mining generell darauf aus ist, Einnahmen pro Kilowattstunde einer Maschine zu generieren. Wobei die Stromkosten hierbei selbstverständlich eine entscheidende Rolle spielen. Es ist immer wichtig, verschiedene Betriebskosten in verschiedenen Rechenzentren, die man auf der Welt hat, und eben in verschiedenen Ländern zu berücksichtigen. Man kann nicht alles miteinander vergleichen, da diese verschiedenen Faktoren die Rentabilität natürlich immer beeinflussen. Auch die Effizienz dieser genutzten Maschinen ist natürlich unheimlich wichtig, um in diesem spezifischen Business profitabel zu sein. Und HIVE hat mit die besten Zahlen hinsichtlich der Effizienz auf diesem Markt. Das wird natürlich durch die kontinuierliche Optimierung der genutzten Technologie erreicht. Damit positioniert sich HIVE als technologischer Marktführer im Bereich der Bitcoin-Miner und strebt auch nach anhaltendem Wachstum in einem sich sehr dynamisch entwickelnden Marktumfeld, wie wir es derzeit erleben. Trotz derzeit schon schwieriger Marktbedingungen, die eigentlich jeder, der den Bitcoin-Preis kennt, vielleicht schon kennt, konnte das Unternehmen trotzdem positive Wachstums-Mining-Margen erzielen. Um nun aber noch mal ein bisschen klarer zu werden, wollte ich von Aiden wissen, ob er das Thema Effizienz für uns mal ein bisschen mehr in Zahlen bringen kann und vielleicht auch ein bisschen in Perspektive, möglicherweise auch zu anderen Minern, setzen kann.
Everything we talk about is quantitative, this can all be measured succinctly and mathematically. And that's what makes the Bitcoin mining industry such a beautiful, in my opinion, I'm an engineer, I love math, and I'm sure a lot of your shareholders and investors, or sorry, a lot of your viewers are very savvy shareholders and investors that like to quantify and look for the best value, which can be measured in whether it's in Bitcoin or dollars or hash rate. The thing is, they're all interrelated. Now, when you look at the monthly report, every big crypto miner puts out a press release that says how many Bitcoin we mined this month and what was our hash rate. The key is to look at what is the Bitcoin per exahash. Because if you have 3 exahash, for example, and you mined 300 Bitcoin, that would mean, well, 300 Bitcoin divided by 3 exahash, that would mean you did 100 Bitcoin per exahash. Very simple. However, and you would think that would be very consistent across all of the companies in the sector. Maybe there'd be a small variance of 5%, 10%. If we look at Q2, meaning the period end June 30th of 2023, HIVE led the entire sector. We had an average of 83 Bitcoin per exahash. And the top 2 or 3 miners beside us, I think they were, 1 or 2 were in the high 70s. Maybe there was another one at 81, 82 Bitcoin per exahash. So, maybe there was 4 or 5 of the companies. I'm talking measuring a dozen companies now. But you look at the rest of the companies, you had companies in the low 70s Bitcoin per exahash, in the 60s, even in the 50s. So you see a performance divergence of like almost 40%. So if we use a car analogy, I know you're based in Stuttgart. If you say, okay, well, what's a 0 to 60 time of a Porsche Turbo S? Okay, it's 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. And you look at the peers, maybe BMW M8 or whatever. You think, okay, maybe that car is going to be 3 seconds. That one's going to be 3.2 seconds, 0 to 60. But what we're seeing is a lot of these miners are having 0 to 60 times 4 seconds, 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds. It's all over the map. And yet they're focusing on scale. But what is scale without efficiency? And I say that's so important to appreciate and understand as an investor because as we saw, some of the biggest miners last year had solvency issues. They almost went bankrupt. And I'm not going to mention anyone's names, but I think it's pretty common knowledge. A lot of miners that were chasing scale got in trouble. And one of the biggest culprits, even if they have decent operations, is debt. A lot of miners in the bull market got very much, I think, obsessed with this idea of scale because if we put out a press release and says we're going to go to 20 exahash, our market cap is going to jump up. People are getting excited. Bitcoin's doing this. That's great, but that doesn't last because if you put out a press release and your stock bumps up for a few days or for what's going to happen in the next 6 months or 18 months when Bitcoin does this, now you've committed all this capital. You put 30% down to buy tens of thousands of machines. Well, guess what? You can't raise any more money to complete your purchase, and suddenly you're getting your machines or your assets repossessed. It's very dangerous. We saw a lot of expensive debt 18% interest rates. We looked at it all. We're always analyzing that high. We're hyper analytical and we always look at the best deals. We want to focus on the best ROI. I don't necessarily want the best, most expensive, fastest ASIC. I want the ASIC that still has good long term efficiency, We do time variant signal analysis where our inputs are the Bitcoin price of difficulty. We study the hash rate. We model what a bear market could look like if it continues for 18 months. Will we be able to run this machine profitably in our own facilities and pay it off and then free cash flow? The whole point of Bitcoin mining is you want to buy ASICs, and whatever you paid for those ASICs, you want to make sure they will continue to mine profitably until your investment is 100% paid off. And then that's the gravy. That's the best part about Bitcoin mining. Then you're free cash flow. So at Hive, our primary principle is to have the best cash flow return on invested capital. Simple.
Der CEO Aiden Sillick erklärt, dass der Erfolg anhand von Kennzahlen wie zum Beispiel Bitcoin pro Hash gemessen werden kann. Dabei verdeutlicht er auch, dass eine bloße Skalierung der Unternehmen ohne wirkliche Effizienz, wie es viele der großen Bitcoin-Miner an der Börse tun, langfristig problematisch sein kann. Denn für eine große Skalierung werden oft hohe Schulden in Kauf genommen und das hat bei einigen Firmen in der Vergangenheit bereits zu Problemen geführt. Also quasi Masse statt Klasse. Daher setzt HIVE in erster Linie auf Effizienz, also Klasse, und schaut, dass die vorhandene Leistung, die man schon hat, immer optimiert und genutzt wird. Die Skalierung der Serverfarm geht das Team strategisch an, um eben eine optimale Cashflow-Performance für die Shareholder erzielen zu können. In dem Zusammenhang wollte ich von Aiden wissen, ob das Team von HIVE Digital Technologies denn auch in der Lage sein wird, dieses extrem hohe Effizienzlevel fortzuführen. Denn Aiden und die Firma haben erst kürzlich in einem anderen Video angekündigt, dass sie ihre Mining-Kapazität verdoppeln wollen. Und da ist die Frage, ob man das Niveau bei der Vergrößerung beibehalten kann.
Actually, another excellent question. I'm glad you came prepared today with all these strong insights. So that is the essence of how one can consider how to best prepare for the halving event. So we have projections. There's something called hash price. And hash price, you can look at Luxor. They have a website called Hash Rate Index. You can look at BitInfo charts. There's a few of these things. And what the hash price measures is the dollar per petahash per day. So if you have one petahash of Bitcoin mining capacity, how much money will you earn in US dollars? And right now it's about, I don't know, maybe $58 a day per petahash. Now that varies wildly. As difficulty goes up, hash price goes down. As Bitcoin price goes up, hash price goes up. Now, if you look at the halving event, our target is that the network should stabilize somewhere around a low $40 per petahash per day target. What that means is an S19 Pro, J Pro, with an efficiency of about 30 joules a terahash. Now I'm speaking to all the enthusiasts out there. Maybe some of your viewers are crypto miners themselves, so this can hopefully help them. We believe an S19J Pro will be break even or slightly profitable if your power cost is about 5 or 6 cents after the halving event. Meaning all the older machines that are 38 joules a terahash will likely be unprofitable unless you have really cheap power at 2 or 3 cents. And we believe most of the large crypto miners right now, they might have some older operations from the 2017, 2018 era when there was cheap power up for grabs, but that's all spoken for. So most of the guys that have come online in the last 2, 3 years, they're finding power at 4 cents, 5 cents. And, even if they tell you they have power at 3 or 4 cents, there's other operating costs, real estate, staff, etc. Maybe they have demand charges. So, broadly, I would say your all-in cost as a large-scale crypto miner operating. I'm talking direct operating costs, not including corporate G&A, but we should talk about that later. It's usually about 5 cents. I'm not saying that's what ours is. I would say that's a good metric benchmark to model the entire industry. And when you study when difficulty falls and you look at those different break-even prices on a matrix representation that I told you about, it is very evident that a lot of people have power at about 5 cents because you see that's where difficulty starts dropping and you look at the different types of machines that they would be running. And this is all statistical inference. Nobody knows for sure what type of machines are active on the network. That's the golden question that a lot of analysts and experts in the field, it's a topic of research actually, because if you know the type of machines that are running on the entire network, you can almost perfectly predict where everyone's break even and where the Bitcoin difficulty will adjust. But that's more of an expert topic, but it is one of the things that we look at we avidly pursue this sort of research. But the key is after the halving event, we expect it will be in the low $40 per petahash range. And so a crypto miner should be prepared for that. Now, you asked me about expanding versus upgrading. I believe it is key to ensure that you've upgraded your machines so that you'll be able to sustain that future hash price. And the reason why I gave you all of this kind of academic explanation is, for the viewers that are looking for companies that have methodically and mathematically planned ahead, this is what we do very diligently at Hive. We look at capital in Bitcoin as a very scarce resource. We want to protect our treasury for our shareholders so that when we're going through the halving event, we want to be in a strong position so we can actually take advantage of buying assets for very cheap prices. Last December, we bought a bunch of S19J Pros at about $11 a terahash, and we put this in a press release. And those machines are about 90% paid off right now. So they will be free cash flowing very shortly. And they'll be continuing to make money. We expect them to continue to be able to be at least break even, if not make money after the halving. And of course, I don't want to be so pessimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. Usually 6 to 9 months after the halving event, there's a big bull market. So that's a great time for us to accumulate resources and actually expand post halving. We want to keep a strong balance sheet and at least be break even, if not slightly profitable post halving. And then when the bull market comes, you're in an extremely strong position to really flourish. That's our tactic.
HIVE Digital Technologies hat strategische Vorbereitungen für das bevorstehende Halving-Event getroffen. Dieses Halving-Event halbiert, wie bereits gesagt, die Belohnung für die Bitcoin-Miner, aber HIVE plant, eben kostendeckend oder sogar profitabel zu bleiben. Die Vorbereitungen auf dieses Halving zielen jetzt darauf ab, die Position von HIVE zu stärken und vielleicht auch von zukünftigen Marktentwicklungen dann zu profitieren, indem vielleicht auch Vermögenswerte zu dann möglicherweise vorteilhaften Preisen erworben werden und eben nach dem Halving-Event die Expansion stattfinden könnte. HIVE zeigt so eine klare Strategie und sorgfältige Planung, um eben langfristig erfolgreich im Kryptomining zu bleiben. Eine klare Strategie hat die Firma aber nicht nur beim Bitcoin-Mining, sondern auch im Hinblick auf die angesprochenen Entwicklungen im KI-Bereich. Im Gegensatz zu vielen, ich nenne sie mal Hype-Unternehmen der letzten Monate, hat HIVE nicht nur irgendwas mit KI zu tun, sondern setzt auch schon jetzt konkrete Schritte um eben von diesem aufstrebenden Geschäftsmodell profitieren zu können. Und ich habe Aiden einmal ganz kurz gebeten, mit mir darüber zu sprechen. Was heißt es denn, wenn man nicht nur labert, sondern wirklich tut?
Walking the walk. We're doing it. We hit $1 million of annual revenue on a run rate basis earlier this year with our beta test with 1%, 1%, about 400 GPUs. We have 38,000 NVIDIA GPUs, Jan. So you think about that and you think about the potential of the scale. Now it's very exciting because we recently announced that by October, which is by end of this month, October, we'll be at 8x our beta test, eight times. Our beta test was $1 million annual run rate revenue. We'll be 8 times that by the end of this month. How did we do that? Well, our team was busy all summer doing procurement analysis, doing GPU stress tests. We've been working on different platforms with different I guess you could say, buyers of our processing power to understand their needs. Because it's not just about the GPU. There's many other aspects. You need to have a lot of RAM. You need to have the right CPU. You need to have the right number of threads. So you're basically building an elastic supercomputer that somebody can use for a few hours, a few days, weeks, or even months. And you have to have the proper connectivity, interconnects, all of these aspects to allow people to come in with these very resource intensive demands for AI compute. The reason, NVIDIA's hit $1 trillion market cap this year because of their GPUs. Why? What is a GPU? A GPU stands for graphic processing unit. Traditionally, they're used for gaming, but really, what a GPU is good at doing that a CPU is not so good at doing is matrix multiplication. So, I keep, showing my nerdiness, my geekiness, but for those of you that studied linear algebra and perhaps in university and, multidimensional mathematics, matrix multiplication, you can have a 3 by 3 matrix, a 4 by 4, etc. When you get into n-dimensional matrices, you can't even visualize it, right? Because you have so many axes. And these GPUs are very good at doing matrix multiplication, and that gives you orders of magnitude processing speed beyond what a CPU could do. It was a really good article by Andreessen Horowitz on the high cost of GPU compute. In fact, you can just Google AZ16 GPU cost of compute, and it really nicely spells it out. I would encourage the savvy, viewers you have to look up that article because it really breaks down our revenue model of how we make money. Because our GPUs, we could sell one of our GPUs, for example, for 80 cents an hour for a single GPU, some of them 40 cents an hour, and it's depending on the model and the resources. But if you break it down, if you want to do an apples to apples comparison to Bitcoin mining, you can actually look at the revenue you earn for every kilowatt hour, right? For every joule, kilowatt hour is a joule of energy. It's just a different name for the same thing. So how many dollars per joule can you get doing HPC, high performance computing, or AI demand, and then compare that to Bitcoin mining? It's 15 times more profit dense per joule. And so if you look at our entire fleet of 38,000 NVIDIA GPUs, that's in 10 megawatts. So our blue sky potential, if all of our GPUs were doing high performance computing, could be up to $100 million of revenue in 10 megawatts. Last year we did $106 million of revenue. Our global fleet of infrastructure is about 140 plus megawatts, right? So there's that 15x multiple, right? Now, of course, don't get me wrong. We believe in Bitcoin. It's the energy-backed decentralized asset. And in a bull market, Bitcoin mining economics are, easily 3, 4, 5 times stronger than where they are today. And that's fantastic. And so we want to give investors the best of both worlds, right? In a Bitcoin bear market, our GPUs provide the perfect hedge because this is an 80% profit margin business. Our year-end target is to be at 15 million revenue or about $12 million cash flow just from our AI business. And that supports, that's fixed cash flow in addition to the Bitcoin. And so then that gives us an even stronger position to expand and buy distressed assets in Bitcoin mining after the halving event, right? So, this is a little bit of our strategic roadmap.
Mhm.
We will scale in Bitcoin mining, but we will do so when it is at the best time for our shareholders, long term.
Okay, that's great to know. Maybe I just take one of my questions that were considered for later for right now, because I think it's fitting pretty good. So just for our viewers' understanding, you will still continue to be one of the most efficiency and one of the best Bitcoin miners in the world, but you're also trying to have a new strategy, which is an AI, but you won't have like a complete shift into the AI space. You will still continue to mine Bitcoin. Is it right?
Yes. I mean, we have expertise in both realms. And
Mhm.
what led us to this kind of dual value proposition is that we've always had that at Hive. Remember, Hive was one of the world's largest Ethereum miners for 5 years. We had a fleet of 150,000 GPUs that we were operating. To the best of my knowledge, that is the largest single site Ethereum mine in the world that our team was running since 2018. Now, here's the beautiful thing: 110,000 of those cards, approximately, were AMD cards, and those were retail cards that were good for mining Ethereum, but they didn't have the resources and bandwidth to do AI. That's okay because those cards paid themselves over 4 times their value they mined in Ethereum. We took that profit, we reinvested and expanded the Bitcoin business. So how can we scale the Bitcoin business smarter and better to the benefit of our shareholders? Now, we sold those cards after the Ethereum merge, but remember I said 150,000? Well, 110,000 roughly were AMD. The remaining 38,000 are the NVIDIA cards, which are the A series, the A40, the A6000, the A5000, the A4000. And those cards have the resources and capability for AI computing. And to really supercharge and unleash their full potential, as I gave you that example of building an elastic supercomputer, we put those cards into a data center or enterprise grade server, and we partnered with Supermicro, and they're one of NVIDIA's largest partners globally. And that's the server. That's where your CPUs and your RAM, et cetera. And so our press releases talk about these details, but we order the servers, they run out of a tier 3 data centers, we put the GPUs, and then their full potential is unleashed. It's like putting racetrack tires on a car and putting 98 octane gas, and then you go on the Nürburgring, and then you can really let your Porsche Turbo do some magic.
Also, HIVE will seine Serverfarmen in Zukunft auch dem AI-Business zugutekommen lassen. Denn KI- oder AI-Firmen brauchen viel Rechenpower und HIVE hat eben die Technik und die Rechenzentren, um diese große Leistung bereitstellen zu können. Das wird die Firma natürlich aber nicht daran hindern, auch weiter ein Bitcoin-Miner zu bleiben. Das habe ich Aiden ja gerade gefragt. Beide Geschäftsmodelle sollen und können eben wohl nebeneinander funktionieren und dann auch voneinander profitieren. Das Team hat die Erfahrung und eben auch die Skills, um genau beide Geschäftsmodelle erfolgreich führen zu können. Jetzt haben wir in dem gesamten Interview bereits viel über Zahlen und natürlich auch Umsatz gesprochen, aber ein modernes Business, das besteht eben nicht nur aus dem Nehmen, sondern eben auch aus dem Zurückgeben. Und daher hat sich HIVE einer ESG-freundlichen Strategie verpflichtet. Und beispielsweise sponsern sie Hockeyteams, sie nutzen auch die Abwärme der Serverfarmen zum Heizen von Hockeystadien. Ihr seht hier im Hintergrund Videoaufnahmen eingeblendet. Zudem setzt die Firma auf 100% grünen Strom. Aber auch ein Gewächshausprojekt hat HIVE bereits angekündigt. Und ich wollte von Aiden einmal wissen, ob er dazu einmal einen Kommentar lassen kann und uns nochmal klar erzählen kann, worauf dieses Gewächshausprojekt abzielt.
Yeah, we are partnered with Agtera, which is a NASDAQ-listed greenhouse developer in Sweden. As you know, Boden is 30 kilometers from the Arctic Circle. And what we've been working on, and we have a heat transfer engineer. It's a fantastic project. A lot of technical, puzzles to solve. How do we most efficiently take the heat from our Bitcoin mine in Boden, or GPU mine for that matter, and use that heat and convert it, which is done with fluid dynamics, by the way, and transfer that to warm the greenhouse. And so the greenhouse design, which is in place, is two phases. 80,000 square feet total. We'll be able to grow 300 tons of cucumbers or 800 tons of tomatoes annually. Now, step one is we're already using green energies. We're hydro energy in northern Sweden. And so we have a zero carbon footprint as we mine green Bitcoin. So that's great. And that's part of our company DNA. In Quebec, in Canada, it's hydro. In Iceland, it's geothermal. We've always been green energy focused. However, now if we can grow produce in northern Sweden and you don't have to import that produce, especially in the winter, now you're actually saving carbon. You've got a carbon negative footprint because you don't have to send produce up from Spain or Italy in the winter, and you obviously have a carbon footprint when you transport produce. So this is the ideology that we pursue. And in addition to that, when you talk about ESG, we also have a great relationship with the community of Bowdoin. We sponsor the hockey team there, the HIVE arena, both the team and the jerseys. We sponsor it. So we always believe in sponsoring and investing in our community. We also sponsor the local sport hockey team in New Brunswick as well. And in Quebec, we're doing heat recycling. So the heat and this is already happening, the heat in Quebec from our 30 megawatt Bitcoin mine is being used to warm a building 200,000 square feet. It's a swimming pool manufacturer, and Quebec gets very cold in the winter. So that allows them, they don't have to buy heat or pay for heat. They could just use ours, and we provide that at no cost.
Also wie alles bei HIVE steht auch das Gewächshausprojekt nicht still, sondern macht seine Fortschritte und bietet HIVE eben die Möglichkeit, im Norden Schwedens, wo es sehr kalt ist, Gemüse für die lokale Bevölkerung anzubauen. Dadurch muss dann auch kein Gemüse mehr von Spanien oder vielleicht anderen Teilen der Welt aufwendig mit dem Schiff oder mit dem Flugzeug geliefert werden, was wiederum natürlich auch eine Menge CO2 sparen würde. Das zum Thema Bitcoin Mining kann nicht positiv für die Umwelt sein. Zum Schluss habe ich Ihnen gebeten, einmal noch mal ganz kurz in wenigen Worten zusammenzufassen, warum man vielleicht heute HIVE Digital Technologies kaufen sollte, natürlich aus Sicht von ihm als CEO.
I think, and at HIVE, our whole team, we work around the clock, 7 time zones, as we strive to be the best in class, pound for pound, most efficient and most profitable Bitcoin miner. We have the highest Bitcoin per exahash in the sector. We also have the lowest G&A in the sector as a function of revenue and hash rate. And so when you look at the corporate margin on a quarterly basis, we lead the sector in having the best corporate margin per exahash. So that makes us, in my opinion, pound for pound, the best Bitcoin miner in the sector. We've got an amazing technological stack. We're green energy focused. And in addition to that, we operate and we have 6 years of experience operating a large fleet of GPUs, which are now being repurposed for AI. I think our stock is undervalued. We're not getting any premium for the AI. And we're going to be 8x our beta test projected by the end of this month, October. And our goal is to be almost 15x by December of this year. So we're rapidly growing. We have a tier 3 data center in Canada and a tier 3 data center in Sweden that are running our GPUs. And we have more servers powering our NVIDIA GPUs coming online every month as the revenue from the AI ramps up. This is a high margin, 80% profit business in addition to the Bitcoin mining. So we strive to deliver best of both worlds with a lean and mean strategy, low G&A, high revenue per employee to deliver that best value in class for shareholders.
Also wie eingangs schon gesagt, das Ganze hier ist keine Anlageberatung. Das tun wir nicht bei axinocapital. Ihr bekommt allerdings von uns alles, wie in Form eines Interviews, an die Hand, um eben eure eigenen Entscheidungen selber treffen zu können. Zudem den angesprochenen Disclaimer: A, wir haben einen aktiven Dienstleistungsvertrag mit HIVE Digital Technologies und wir sind auch selber in die Firma investiert. Ja, das sollten wir immer als Interessensinflikt offenlegen und das machen wir auch sehr gerne. Also wer jetzt sagt, er findet das Bitcoin-Mining spannend, weil er viel Potenzial im Bitcoin sieht und ebenso auch den Minern dieses Potenzial zutraut, und wer zusätzlich auch sagt, dass er das gesamte KI-Gebiet sehr interessant findet, der hat hier die Möglichkeit, mit dem Unternehmen direkt beides abzudecken. Denn HIVE möchte sowohl im Bitcoin-Mining expandieren, als auch im KI-Bereich Fuß fassen. Ich denke, mit der Erfahrung des Teams ist es durchaus möglich, dass HIVE die angesprochenen Strategien umsetzen kann, aber natürlich wie immer wird es die Zukunft zeigen. HIVE ist natürlich auch ein sehr volatiler Stock, genauso wie es auch eben der Kryptobereich grundsätzlich ist. Das muss natürlich jedem klar sein. Informiert euch gerne auf axinocapital.de/hive oder falls ihr Fragen an die Firma habt, könnt ihr sie auch gerne in die Kommentare schreiben. Wir haben direkten Draht zum Management und können diese Fragen dann für euch weiterleiten. Ansonsten hinterlasst dem Kanal gerne ein Abo, um in Zukunft nichts mehr zu verpassen, und dann sehen wir uns im nächsten Video hier auf dem Kanal wieder.